Are Japanese gloves better than American gloves? A lot of us love a good old USA-made baseball glove. In fact, since we live in America, it's really the only glove we revert to. However, Japanese gloves are starting to take the world by storm, and I'm actually a really big fan of them. Japanese gloves are significantly different than American gloves. However, some of them, though they're extremely different, they manage to just blend in, and people sometimes don't even know they're using a Japanese glove. American gloves have long since been used since baseball was even made, but now with Japanese just making headlines in the baseball world, Japanese gloves are starting to come into view. And Japan might actually be onto something, because Japanese gloves are sometimes better, most of the time better than American gloves. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's just the fact of the matter. So, are Japanese gloves truly better than American baseball gloves? Well, this is a Japanese baseball glove. It is a Mizuno franchise. Mizuno is a Japanese company, but they also have Mizuno USA. It just means they make USA gloves. Honestly, if you're going with Mizuno, I'd recommend a Japanese glove, because Mizuno does make pretty good gloves, but honestly, Japan gloves are so much better that you might as well just go with a Japanese glove. Then on the other hand, we have Rawlings, an American company. Now, Rawlings does make some Japanese gloves, but the majority of Rawlings you see are American gloves. So, which company makes the better baseball glove, Japan or America? Well, that's what we're gonna find out. And let me go over a few things that I like about the Japanese glove that are not findable on regular American baseball gloves. Right off the bat, you might think this Mizuno glove looks just like any other baseball glove. But let me point out a few things that I've noticed that are different than the old American glove. Number one, look at this laced palm. This is 2 laces, whereas the American glove only has 1 set of laces, not 2 like our trusty Japanese glove. And is there even a point of this? Actually, yes. With only 1 pair of laces running down the palm is now more flexible and just not as durable all around. It's easier to get squished, and a 2-hinge close doesn't look as beautiful as a Japanese glove. However, with Japan gloves, Japan has 2 sets of laces running down the palm, and that makes for a much more beautiful and natural 2-hinge close, as you can see here, while still keeping the glove nice and loose and beautifully broken in, by the way. Another thing you're going to notice with an American glove versus a Japanese glove is the quality of the laces. Now, these laces aren't bad, like I can pull on them all I want. However, they're almost fake in my opinion. These are the laces on the American glove after like half a season of use. The top of them is coming off, and you can see it's like a synthetic leather-like coating. Also on the top, you can just see that these laces are not really the best quality. However, if you switch to a Japanese glove, which has been used for an entire season plus some more, also it has been reshaped 3 times because I didn't like the shapes I made previously, the laces are in much better quality. Also, they're thicker and just stronger. And that leather coating that you see on the American glove is not coming off. In fact, I feel like this is actually true leather, whereas the laces on the American glove, they just don't feel like good quality. Another thing I would love to point out when dealing with these gloves is just the all-around shape of both of them. This is the American glove, and as you can see, it's like pretty darn floppy. That's not really good. I've shaped this thing, and I've just kept reshaping it. The glove does not hold its shape very well. As you can see, the pinky just does not want to flare. It's all around a very floppy glove, which is actually what I wanted because I use it for outfield. Please do not judge me. I know this is a closed web used for pitcher. I didn't know that at the time. I'm going to be getting a professional outfield glove soon, so just stay tuned for that. But as of now, this is my gamer, so I apologize for that. However, this other Japanese glove, that is my pitcher's glove, and also sometimes my infield, because fun fact, this closed web is actually used for infield in Japan. That's how you know this is a Japanese glove, when it can be used in the infield. Us Americans are not actually used to that. Also, I've used this for an entire season and some more, and it's a whole lot stiffer than this thing. This thing flops, just doesn't hold its shape very well, whereas this is pretty darn stiff, which is what I like about Japanese gloves. They hold their shape even if they're budget gloves, whereas an American budget glove, this may last very long, but its shape doesn't hold, whereas this will last long and hold its shape. Here's another aspect I really love about this Japanese glove. It's an absolute pillow. Like, believe me when I say this is easily the comfiest glove I've ever had. To fit my hand in it, it's just so comfortable. The palm liner is just spot on. It's very thick, and this glove it's just very, very soft. The leather is buttery smooth on this thing, whereas the leather on the American budget gloves I actually own, they're dry, they're brittle, and they crack a lot, whereas this thing is just so comfortable. If you ever had a Marucci gloves are very pillow-like. They're just thick and wrinkly and puffy and a little too thick, whereas this is just the perfect combination of just comfortable. When you say gloves are comfortable, this is what comfortable is. I know you think, if you ever heard, oh, this glove is so comfortable from reviews, you might be thinking, a glove comfortable? Gloves can actually be comfortable, and this Japanese glove is easily the comfiest glove I've ever owned in my entire life. However, on a regular American glove, it's just very floppy. It's not very pillow-like at all. And honestly, I can only go 2 in the pinky, not 3 in the pinky. I know 3 in the pinky is very extreme. With the Japanese glove, you have the option of switching to 3 in the pinky because the pinky box is actually very large. But the quality of this leather just speaks for itself. You want a floppy glove in the outfield, you just do, but you don't want it this floppy. The leather is just not the same on American gloves versus Japanese gloves. Quick little look at this glove though. This is our American glove, and if I'll put it on its side, there's not much integrity. It just kind of flops. Like, a glove should stay up like this. It's got integrity. However, our trusty Japanese glove, after more use than, well, that thing, this glove just stays up by itself. It has integrity. The leather is strong enough to keep itself up, especially because of that reinforced, double-laced heel that American gloves often overlook. And all around, Japan just takes a lot of pride and time into making good quality gloves. It's a craft for them, and they take it to heart to make sure they make the best quality gloves, even budget gloves, out there. And they outdo American budget gloves, in my opinion, by a lot. And this is just the franchise. There are a million different budget gloves out there that are made by Japanese quality leather, Japanese craftsmen. It's really, really wonderful what Japan can do with gloves. However, this claims to be pretty good in the infield. Like, Japanese gloves are known to have closed webs in the infield. I can tell you from personal experience, closed webs on American gloves don't feel as good as infield designed webs, like those H webs or the Y webs, those crazy webs that are made for infield. This is made for infield. It's also made for pitcher. So it's 2 different positions that can be played with the same glove. So putting this up against an American glove, how does it take ground balls? And I'm gonna give you my honest feedback on this beautiful thing. Since this claims to be an infield glove, we'll let this one go first and see if Japan is onto something with their baseball gloves. Oh, fumble. Yeah, it feels pretty smooth in and out the pocket. Okay, well, that was a catch. That doesn't count. Okay, that felt good. That felt good. Okay, picks feel sweet. Now to try with this American infield glove. Okay, that felt pretty decent. They both feel relatively similar, but this is just so much smaller. Okay, that did not feel very good. Okay, taking another one with the Japanese infield glove. Yeah, that felt just a slight bit smoother. Yeah, okay. Both feel relatively similar as how they feel. This thing's just so tiny. Now, however, in comparison, let's take a look at the break-ins on these things. This would be my infield model. Flared thumb and pinky, straight fingers, very flat pocket, and then wearing traditional thumb to middle finger closed. That's perfect. However, I will say with this American glove, the shape does not hold. This pinky is practically straight, and I've been curling it for the past 3 weeks. It's insane. However, this thumb does want to bend a tiny bit, but look at the leather on this thing. If I get a close-up, the leather just doesn't look very healthy. The pocket is very small, but this thing is just very loose. If I try to change to 3 in the pinky, it's near impossible with this thing, but it does kind of close somewhat nice. A nice 2-hinge break-in. Now, if I go 2 in the pinky, it feels nice, but it goes all the way up to the ring finger. And that's not necessarily good, but then again, it's how I broke it in. However, with this Japanese glove, I literally have the freedom to do whatever I want with it. If I want to go 3 in the pinky, which is very extreme, but say I want to do that, it closes a respectable thumb to between pinky and ring. But if I change to 2 in the pinky, it gives me a nice thumb to ring close, which is what some people might want. And then if I change to traditional, it goes all the way up to the middle finger with a pretty nice break-in. I like that. That's great for infield. It's just this thing is slightly too big. And a quick close-up of the leather just shows you how soft and buttery smooth this is. That is way better quality than my 2 other budget gloves, so it's very satisfying. There is this one thing I have noticed with this franchise. This has a deep pocket. This has a very shallow pocket. I catch the ball, but the ball just fits like snugly in there. It doesn't have a deep pockety feel. That's pretty decent. In the outfield, you do want some of a pocket, but I feel like this just catches the ball in a miraculous way to where it just catches and just, that's it. Whereas this has a massive pocket where it hits the pocket, it slings the pocket back. As you can see, all this does bend back and it catches it. 1 out of 10 for budget quality. I would give this thing like around a 5. It's not that great. Whereas this would get a solid 7, maybe even a solid 8, because this quality is just, it's just beautiful. The quality of this thing is just nice. One last tip I do want to mention about this glove is when I bought it from Amazon, it came so soft. Like the break-in was the easiest break-in of my entire life. So this will ensure if you get this right before a practice or a game, you're most likely gonna have a very, very short time breaking it in and just having probably the fastest break-in of your life. When it came, I believed I could like almost close it all the way. So having just a few catches in the glove and this thing was ready. It wasn't the nicest shape, I will say, because I didn't know how to shape gloves back then. I got this thing like almost a year ago and it's just been the greatest glove of my life. And that concludes us to my final advice. My final advice to you would be, if you're on the market looking for a just regular American glove or a Japanese glove, I would at least recommend you just try a Japanese glove, because they're very interesting and they have aspects that regular American gloves don't have. And if you're wondering about the price of this thing, it's under $100. You could get this bad boy for around $89 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description so you can get it a whole lot easier. The franchise is just a piece of craftsmanship for 80 bucks, whereas this thing was around 80, 70, 80, maybe $10 cheaper. And it's just a whole lot worse than this beautiful piece of Japan greatness. To answer the question from the very beginning, are Japanese gloves better than American baseball gloves? Yes, Japan makes better baseball gloves. It's a well-known fact, and I would highly recommend you check one of these out. And as always, I'm Raptured. God bless y'all. Peace out.